Hello everyone and welcome along to your Sunday night edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett and I'm your host this evening for a Sunday podcast with a little bit of a difference. First of all, we're joined by Kyle. How are you doing, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. It's going to be a good pod, and it was weird when my missus was asking me if we had YouTube on the television upstairs, and spoiler, Craig, it wasn't for you or I.
It's never for you or I, but that's absolutely fine. Yes, the reason that question will be asked is because we're joined by Callum Beattie. How are you doing, Callum?
Aye, very good, my man. Good after yesterday's result, anyway.
Absolutely. We'll get stuck into everything about Rangers versus Hibs yesterday. It was a bit of a weird game, loads of sort of controversial stop-start moments, loads of drop balls. I don't think I've seen that many drop balls in my life in one game of football. So we'll get into a wee bit about the refereeing and stuff like that. But just before we do, Callum, you're a big Rangers fan, obviously musician. You tour the world. You must have to get up at all sorts of times to watch Rangers games.
The weirdest one I've been is Philippines, and I was sitting in a bar at about 7 a.m. or something like that, watching a game, and thought it was off my head. But no, it was great. You know, I obviously, as soon as I started getting a wee bit of success with music, I kept getting asked what team I support, like every week on the radio or TV or whatever. So, it was quite interesting when it all came out. It was very entertaining, actually, because your fan base kind of went like this on my face. It was oh, fuck it. And then the next went right back up all the Rangers fans. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah, was it something you had to think seriously about, whether you said that or not, or was it just something that you naturally just were like, I'm just it's who I am and it's who I support, and that's it?
I've been going to the games for years, so I was kind of surprised that, you know, I think the media make a bigger deal of things like this, you know, but I couldn't give a shite, to be honest, man. You know, love it.
Imagine the Scottish media making a big deal out of something. It's unheard of. So we'll go on. We'll just start talking about the game yesterday. If anyone does have any questions for Callum, for Kyle or I as well, but that's probably less likely. So if you've got any questions for Callum, just pop them in and we'll bring them up on screen and maybe get some answers for you. If you've got any thoughts on our comments or anything like that as well, just pop them in. We'll try and bring up as many comments as we can. But first of all, just over sort of 24 hours or so after the game finished, Kyle, I'll come to you first. What are your reflections on the game?
Obviously happy to come away with a win. I think it was Rangers' best performance of the season. No, but that is a tricky Hibs team. We know that of late they've changed their style, they changed their formation. I think Nick Montgomery's actually, I think he waffles sometimes at the end of his interviews, his post-match interviews, but I think he actually does know what he is doing as a manager. They've got some good players, but it was the mentality yesterday for me. I think this is going to be a record. I think this is less than 4 minutes, and I'm already going to mention Clement's 4 pillars and here, and it's just our reaction to going a goal down yesterday, to missing a penalty. That is what I'm taking from yesterday. I thought a few players were off it yesterday, is my honest assessment, but you know, just glad to get the win, and it's all about just 3 points at the moment. I know that people are talking about you need a good performance before the Old Firm, but I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah, I think yesterday was a bit of a strange game. It felt like we were in control without really creating very much. Hibs are always a wee bit dangerous on the break, but the good thing, I'm always confident when we play Hibs because they open up a little bit against us and it gives us a bit of space. Obviously, Cyriel Dessers is the one we're hoping finishes the chances, and we saw the good and the bad of Cyriel Dessers yesterday, which we'll come on to. That one at the start of the second half, I've still no idea how he hits that past the post. It's absolutely unreal. But Callum, you were at the game yesterday. What were your thoughts when you were at it, and then have they sort of changed in sort of 24 hours since?
It's funny, like when you're at the game and then you watch it when you get back on the telly, it's like you've watched a completely different game. But I thought when I was at the game, I thought Dessers was Dessers, and then when I got home, he looked like Pele, and I thought brilliant. But no, I think the big thing for me that stood out was how we replied when it went back to 1-1. Those sort of moments and trying to find something when you've only got 3 minutes to go. is the difference between winning titles. For I think we wouldn't have seen that back in September anyway. So I think that was a massive bonus for us and shows how far you've came,
Yeah, you've both kind of picked up on, I guess, the mentality that this team has in certain areas. I guess the coming back from a disappointment, a really crap goal to lose, basically. The way that it was, I don't think there's any other way to describe it. It's just a really bad goal to lose. We'll go on to talk about defensively how that looked and all that in a bit, but we came back really strongly, as you guys said, with what was a class goal in itself, the way it was worked down the line to Cantwell the ball across, and even Cyriel Dessers was able to find the back of the net with the header. But it was that mentality seems to be coming through. Callum, will come to you. Have you been impressed so far with how this team have managed to get themselves back into the title race? Obviously, we all thought it was done last October. They've managed to get themselves back in the title race, but actually how they've handled the pressure since, it's been neck and neck.
I think it's Clement, because even just by the way he talks and things, you can tell how organised and obsessed he is with football. He knows what he's doing, and the players clearly believe in him. So it's kind of no surprise, really. He's a great believer in sort of taking every single game at a time, and it's almost helped us in a way, because say we had to go to Dundee this week, which obviously we don't have to, but I thought we were going to have to. Despite the result, I still would have went into the Old Firm positively, and I'm not sure I would say that with any other manager at the helm, but with him I just feel pretty positive, even when we do drop points, because I know that we'll make them back up elsewhere. So great belief in the guy.
Yeah, it's really impressive actually how his mentality kind of rubs off on the fans as well, in terms of taking it one game at a time. Kyle, you and I sit in press conferences with Philippe Clement after really every game, and he's always asked a question like, how do you feel that you're just ahead of Celtic now, or where you are in the league table? And he always just hits back with just taking it one game at a time. I can only control what we do, and it just kind of rubs off on everyone. Is that do you feel that? And how do you think about the team's mentality so far?
100%. I mean, it's one of the things that he identified, and fair play to him. He had big balls to come in and say, listen, the support in the team are not where it should be at the moment. And the fact that, what word I'm going to say before I even say it, I think that shows you how sort of, attuned we are to everybody, because he got the synergy back with the fans. It's just the biggest thing with Clement for me is his message is so simple. I mean, obviously you don't know what he's saying exactly in the dressing room, but I think you've got a rough idea, one game at a time. But it's not like I hate to talk about our previous manager, but it's just such chalk and cheese in terms of the way that he's going about it. I mean, you hear it. John Lundstrom was the one for me that I heard at a presser. I think it was a few games before the international break just there. He said he's come in, he's just made everything dead simple. He's just given us really simple roles. We all know that if one player, I mean, yesterday was a perfect example of that. I'm sure we'll come on to the amount of subs that we had and players that we brought back, but it was just like for like, and that is exactly what you want in a team like that. So yeah, he's come in, he's simplified things, and the message is on brand from everybody, because you don't want to say you can almost predict what he's going to say in these press conferences. He keeps them interesting, and he's so stern, but he's likable, and he always chucks in a wee bit of humour in there as well. It surprises me how often we actually laugh at him in press conferences, or laugh at what he's saying, because he's such a funny guy, and he just gets it. I mean, he just gets what being part of Rangers is all about. He's been open about that in the past and saying, he was at Monaco, he didn't have fans, and I really think that he's one of the managers that we've had that are so appreciative of the fans, because he goes on about it every single week. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. But he never loses that intimidation factor when he walks in or he stares at you. So that's always a good thing for a Rangers manager as well. Interesting, some comments coming in. CGM 55 Callum says, I thought we were way too open in midfield yesterday. Lundstrom and Diomande got overwhelmed at times. We'll come on to talk about it next week later on in the podcast. But how did you feel about that midfield battle yesterday? I guess there were moments, I think, particularly at the start of the second half, where it felt a bit like a basketball game, and felt a wee bit end to end, and maybe a bit too open for how I would like to see Rangers play at Ibrox in terms of a controlling the game?
I think so. I think when Sterling came on, you notice a big difference. I actually thought they played all right in midfield. Diamonde obviously would do anything to keep him, but I thought the standout for me was Scott Wright. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and I would not be surprised to see him start against Celtic now after his performance there. But I wouldn't be too worried about maybe the slack balls and stuff. They've had the international break. I know it's only 10 days, but it does feel like quite a long time when you're a footballer and you're not playing games, So, no, I thought they were all right.
Yeah, and that there brings the end of Callum's appearance on the TII podcast after complimenting Scott Wright. So that's not allowed on here. So no, I actually thought Scott Wright was quite good yesterday. Kyle, what did you make of that? I guess we have some players coming back. We've got the likes of Sima came back yesterday, and that was really encouraging to see. But I did think I thought Scott Wright's performance was interesting yesterday because he wasn't staying wide. He was moving inside and almost creating the space for James Tavernier to go up the outside. He was also, I guess, moving between the lines, which allowed Lundstrom and Diomande to find that pass inside and kind of created some problems for Hibs. So begrudgingly, I have to agree with Callum. I actually thought Scott Wright had quite a good game. Were you of the same thought?
Yeah, I thought he was one of our better players yesterday until he got hooked around the 60-minute mark. But it's about utilising his strengths. Cortez had a wee bit about him with that. He gets played the ball in, and Hibs are going to push you. They're going to press. They're a team that you're going to have the man right in at your back. And the amount of times he just spun a man, as you said, in the middle of the park yesterday. But I want to come back to the sort of central midfield point that we're talking about. I don't think yesterday was Lundstrom's best game. I'm never going to say a bad word about Diomande ever, by the way. I actually thought
class,
he was...
isn't he? He's class.
He's so good. But I don't know if we're going to ask this later on, but a spoiler, it was between him and Dessers for my man of the match yesterday. But I actually think it's more the personnel sitting in front of them. Scott Wright is not a player that tracks back as much. Fabio Silva, maybe to an extent. Todd Cantwell is not going to track back as much as Tom Lawrence. Dessers, you could see a wee bit yesterday, didn't really track back much. When we made those changes, as Callum said, in terms of Sterling, I mean, his brief appearance out on the wing, you could see he was helping Tav even defensively a lot more. McCausland, I think, is having that coached into him about coming back. And Abdallah Sima is just, yeah, he's quite good at tracking back as well. So I think that's where a bit of the looseness came from. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see next week how that pans out. But to go back to your original point, yes, I will say it, and everybody can clip this. I thought Scott Wright had a good game yesterday.
It's three of us saying Scott Wright had a good game yesterday. It'll be the first and last time that ever happens. I guess we're all looking ahead to next week, and we'll come on to that in a bit. But Todd Cantwell's kind of return from injury over the last few Rangers games has been really positive. He only got 55 minutes yesterday, but Callum, I thought he was really positive, but he was almost trying too hard at times as well. He finds himself in games sometimes just trying to keep the ball that little bit too long, and it felt at times yesterday he was doing that.
Clearly, he loves playing football and he loves heading onto the ball probably more than he needs to. There'll be a few more too many touches, but he's such a good player. It's hard to be annoyed at him, even when he loses the ball. I mean, I think he lost the ball once right outside the box and we're kind of lucky to get away with it, but he's such a creative player. It's you kind of let him off with too many touches,
I tried to nutmeg someone at the edge of our own 18-yard box at one point, and that was a bit heart and mouthful.
I know at the edge of the box.
Aye, absolutely. But Kyle, Cantwell's a really important player for us. I think Tom Lawrence falls into that category as well. Ross, our fellow podder, always makes the point that Cantwell and Silva have that kind of level beyond anyone else understanding between each other, and I think at times you do see that, and it makes such a difference. Even in games where teams are defending deep, it makes such a difference to us. Yeah,
100%. It was. In terms of Todd Cantwell, I actually had to have a chat with Ross and we're doing the thumbnail to convince him not to put Todd Cantwell on the thumbnail tonight. But yeah, it's certainly an aspect of his game that he has. working on in terms of coming back. But I thought his attitude yesterday was superb, and especially for the second goal, you could see that he was angry, he was annoyed, but he didn't channel that in a bad way. He didn't, use it to lash out or is thrown at him go down easy if there's a challenge coming in. He used it in a really, really positive, aggressive manner to get that ball in from the side, and I didn't actually realise how good that cross was yesterday until watching it back. Just to have the wherewithal, first time to hit that turn on the spin, and remember he's not a naturally a wide player, and just to find the dome of Dessers so perfectly, I think it was so good. But then even after that, I'm sure we've all seen the clips on social media. It's brilliant to see him absolutely riling that lot up. It was almost reminiscent of Barisic and the Legia Warsaw fans going up and giving a wee fist pump to them, and then even after it, showing our own support how much that meant to him. But yeah, he's a really, really important player for me. At the start of the season, he was the guy that I was saying that the whole team had to be built around, because he's that integral to the way that we play. I don't really think I've changed my mind on that. I know nobody's bigger than the team, but he's the guy that I would be building the whole team around.
Yeah, I think we'll use the dome of Dessers as a nice wee segue into talking about Cyriel Dessers himself. Yesterday, I thought we saw the good and the bad of Cyriel Dessers. His hold-up play was so. I guess he had a really good run down the left-hand side, which was it was quite reminiscent of his Real Betis one, and he set up with Hibs ended up clearing the ball off the line. From that, he scored the goal just before half-time, which was a great finish. He missed from about 3 yards. He was in the middle of the goal and managed to hit the ball wide of the mark. He was wrestling with Rocky Bashiri. I think we saw the good and the bad of Cyriel Dessers yesterday. But Callum, what have your thoughts been on Cyriel Dessers so far this season? He's 13 goals. I think he's a goal contribution, whether it be goal or assist, every 111 minutes. So he seems to be having a solid enough first season, but he's incredibly frustrating player to watch, and you think he should have twice as many goals as he actually does. So what are your thoughts on him?
Exactly, frustrating. It's like he always scores. This is the thing. Like, what did you say, about one every 2 games or something like that? So even if he put away half of the chances, like the absolute sitters that he misses, he'd be loved, wouldn't he? He'd be one of the best strikers we've had, and we'd be trying to give him another 4 years as soon as we could. But it comes down to how good he does next week, to be honest with you, because I think he's going to start. So those are the games you can really judge him in, because can he stick it away when it matters? I remember Morelos, obviously you would think was a far superior striker, but in the Old Firm games he came up a wee bit short quite a few times. So hopefully he can do the damage.
Fingers crossed that we kind of need him to turn up next week, because we don't have that many other options. There's a comment here, I'm just trying to find it actually, Kyle, just about Kemar Roofe. Kemar Roofe was seen in the club's pictures before the game. He was suited and booted. They looked like he could have at least been on the bench and had a few minutes yesterday. He wasn't anywhere near the squad. Do you think that's wrapping him in cotton wool so he can play some sort of part next week at Ibrox, or do you think that's a bit of a strange one?
No, I just think it's. I mean, the manager came out and basically said in his press conference yesterday that Roofe is good. I think him and Dowell both have been training well, but with the options that he had, there's only so many places to pick. And I mean, are you going to go against Fleet? Come on and pick Kemar Roofe on that bench over Abdallah Sima? Because I'm not. To be honest with you, I do agree that. I don't know. I feel like we have this conversation like on repeat every 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. Is Kemar Roofe? That's him back. He's had his chance for me. He was brilliant. He was really, really good in the first couple of seasons. But he just doesn't have the body to carry it out. Interestingly enough, on the Dessers point, I was reading that Cyriel Dessers actually has a better goal return in this first season at Rangers than what Kemar Roofe did. And I'm actually going to fire a question back at you, Craig, here. See, apart from those 2 chances that Dessers missed yesterday, what else did he do that you perceived that was bad or not good play?
He's consistently offside, which frustrates the life out of me. I don't know how he can be offside as many times as he is. Surely by this stage of his career, never mind this stage of the season, he should know. He should know the offside rule. So no, there you go. He's consistently offside, and thanks for putting me on the spot with that question. But I think the reason why the Kemar Roofe question keeps coming up, Callum, is because we don't really have that 100% confidence in Cyriel Dessers, and we're just hoping that if Dessers isn't going to do it, we need someone else, and we desperately try to find someone else. And I think that's why Kemar Roofe, even if he's fit and he's not playing, we still think at least he can come in and do a job at some point.
I think we're in dreamland there. I genuinely think he's done now. I think, don't quote me on this, but what frustrates me most is I heard he was on 32 grand a week. And that is a frightening sum of money for Rangers. And I just think, what could we be doing with that, if that's the case? So I think if he was even going to have a look in terms of next season or even the games going forward, I think he would have been on the bench yesterday. I think that was a massive sign, him not being there. But you never know. I'll be really surprised if he's involved next week at all, even on the bench. But it's a shame because he's such a good player. Clearly, he's got goals in him. He's very smart. He's always in the right place at the right time. His positional sense. But unfortunately, I think he's probably had his best years.
Yeah, I think his time is up. I think his time's probably been up for the last couple of years. Actually, I don't think there's a great deal for us to be gained, especially if he's on that size of contract as well. If he's one of the highest paid players and he's playing 6 games a season or something like that, there's no way you can justify that, especially when we know we need to rework the squad and everything like that. So yeah, absolutely. Kyle, Kemar Roofe, do you think that's his time at Rangers up? Do you think that's him? We won't really see him between now and the end of the season?
I don't know. It entirely depends on, and this is everybody as a Rangers supporter's favourite word, is injuries. If anybody gets a tweak or a knock or something like that, I mean, I know when I hosted the pod on Wednesday, we spent a considerable amount of time talking about injuries. Oddly enough, Kemar Roofe wasn't one of the players that I felt that that we really touched on that much. I'm kind of lumping him in the Ryan Jack, Kieran Dowell sort of category as well, in terms of these are guys that we have to manage their minutes. You see these, I know you'll love this, Craig, the NFL teams, and they have sort of like specialist players and they have starters and finishers and stuff like that. And I very much think Kemar Roofe falls into that category. I think he's the perfect guy to come on in a game if you're, 2 goals up. I mean, I know we're going to be going into the split, so the teams that we're playing are the better teams in Scotland this season. But, some of your, against Dundee, the last 20 minutes, if you're 2-0 up, he's the perfect guy to bring on. It sounds terrible saying this because you're protecting players that are more valuable to us in the title run-in with that way. And he's always deadly for a goal. I mean, you just know I think Ian, I'm going to bring the comment up here for Ian Mitchell, but it's just written, Roofe to score the league winning goals are absolutely written in the stars, can have a new 5-year deal if he wants to after that. It would just be the most Rangers thing ever that he scores the goal that, if we do get there, ends up winning as the title. But yeah, I think
week.
Aye. 100%. But it's just he's a guy. I'm glad he's on our books at the minute. I think he could be an asset if he is used in the right way. I absolutely think Philippe Clement is the guy to use assets in that way. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'll be surprised to see him for more than collectively 30 minutes from now into the rest of the season. Put it that way.
Right, so Kyle's going to start running a book on the over/under 30 minutes for Kemar Roofe between now and the end of the season. I guess the good thing is that we know we have been short up front in that attacking 3 for quite a long time now, pretty much since before the January international break. And Abdallah Sima came back yesterday, which was a real boost for us. Kyle, I'll stick with you first on Abdallah Sima. How big and how important can that be for us in this final run of games?
Massive, absolutely massive. Again, the first half of the season, he was our best player by a country mile. I mean, we all go back to it. I thought he was the first couple of games he played for him. I was like, oh no, I was like, we've just signed a slightly bigger fashion Sakala clone here. But then he stepped up, he smashed that goal against PSV, and ever since then, it's just that's the type of player that we've come to expect from him. It's been incredible that we have got to where we have gotten to in terms of the amount of games he's won points, and because he was our top goal scorer up to that point, but just his all-round play going forward, he's absolutely phenomenal. He's just a powerhouse. People just bounce off him. That comment, oddly enough, I was looking at that myself from Paul McGarrigle there. Craig, he's coming in to be the Kyle Lafferty with the remaining games. I suppose there is a bit of that about him in terms of, his stature. He can play out wide. I'm sure we'll come on to it. I was delighted when he got subbed on for Dessers. Not the fact that Dessers came off, but the fact that he came on at that number 9 role, because I think he could excel there. It was the same. I was banging on about it last season. Malik Tillman was a guy that I really, really wanted to see in that number 9 position. But Abdallah Sima, it's psychologically as well, a guy that's got, already got 12 goals for you this season. It's a real boost to the team, and I think it's just going to bring another. It's going to trouble opposition because we have plenty of options in an attacking sense now, and I'm delighted that the big man's back.
Yeah, Callum, Abdallah Sima in that number 9 role seems to have been one of the key talking points amongst fans. He's played most of his games so far for us out on the left-hand side, and I actually quite like him there. I think he has a really positive impact, and a lot of his goals have actually come from sort of that ghosting in at the back post kind of area, or cutting inside and smashing it into the top corner as such. Where do you like seeing Abdallah Sima, and where would you like to see him in the remaining games?
I think exactly where he was playing yesterday when he came on. He was kind of before he was kind of playing like a left winger, right? So I don't know. I think it's really healthy to have all the options we've got, but I think I'm a massive fan of the Portuguese boy that plays up front. What's reminding his name, Silva. So they're kind of playing in the same place, aren't they?
So you think they might play? They think actually, I don't know. I guess it's quite an interesting one, because do you keep Dessers in there as your focal point striker with Silva on left, or do you try and put Sima out right and see how that works, or do you put Sima through the middle, have Silva out left, and then maybe bring Dessers on with 15 minutes to go?
We're winning games and stuff, so it's like why change it up too much? But he is an unbelievably good player, don't get me wrong, and it's great to have him back, and it will really help us for the remaining games. But I'm just thinking ahead to Celtic and gone, I'd still go with Silva and Dessers up front. Just for the time being. Unless we're 1-0 doing it at half-time, then get them off.
RFC 72, wrong comment there. RFC 72 says Silva is a false 9, let him play with Cantwell and Sima on the left, making the runs in behind. Kyle, I think Sima's pace is a real asset, and I think that's part of the reason I like him on that left-hand side, because you do get to use that, and he's had so many fullbacks on toast in that early part of the season that I don't think you really get to use that pace if you're a Rangers striker, because teams do sit so deep. Now the game at Ibrox might be a bit different, and there's more space because Celtic are going to come at us. They're not going to sit and defend and try and hit us on the break. Where do you like to see Sima? Where would you like to see Sima?
Well, I think I've already nailed my colours to the mast, and this is, I think he was perfect to play through the middle. I totally get what the two you're saying. It's just, I really like it. This is good that I'm not sure. This is what the manager must be like. So he's getting paid to get these frustrating thoughts out his head. But yes,
which is great. Just having that choice, to actually who you're going to play, because they're all good and they've all got creative ideas, and they're all playing well.
100%. It's I do like Silva. I do like Silva, but for me, if it was a choice between playing Sima on the left and playing Silva on the left, I'd be picking Sima all day long, purely because I'm a numbers man. He gets his goals. Then could Fabio Silva go out on the right? I think that's an option as well. But then then that's pushing Big Douge out of the way, because then I quite fancy Big Douge in the right as well. But yeah, in terms of Sima playing, he's chaotic. It's controlled chaos is what I would describe it as. I don't know, Craig. We used to play with a guy a good number of years ago where he used to had the ball at his feet, and he used to it was like the Looney Tunes, like, you know how it would just be that sort of cartoon cloud of smoke and all the legs and the arms and all that just sticking out of it, and then he would just come out the other side with the ball, and you'd be like, how the hell have you still got that ball at your feet? And I feel that Sima's a wee bit like that with his pace, his power. He was unlucky not to score yesterday, but seeing moments like that as a number 9 when a team, I totally get your point, a team, I think it's different because we are going at this split. I think teams will be looking to press us, as you said yesterday as well. Hibs always press, they always push, they always leave spaces at the back. The opposition at the weekend will do the same thing. I think when we play Hearts post-split, I think they will do the same thing before as well. There will be space. If there is space at the back, I would be putting Sima through the middle all day long. But not keeping him there for the full game. I would still controversially have Dessers playing as number 9 as well at the minute, because he's doing pretty well. He's doing more than just getting goals. The manager touched on it again yesterday.
I'm going to throw another curveball in there, and I guess it's turns into my weekly have a go at Borna Barisic point. But Borna Barisic is obviously going to be the left back. Well, it appears he's going to be the starting left back on Sunday. Ridvan Yilmaz got injured on international break. They said it was it's not a long-term injury, but I don't know how short the short-term is. So he may be back, he may not be. But say Borna Barisic is starting, Callum, does that then impact who you choose on the left? Are you more likely to pick a Sima because he's better defensively? Or
I really don't know. I thought Barisic's he just looked totally gassed actually yesterday, and I was really concerned about that, because I was like, we'll get any other games, until next week. I would not be surprised if Sterling starts at left back, and if I was the manager, I'd be sticking Sterling in at left back. I know he's right-footed, I think he's probably got 2 feet in him, so I would just do it for safety. They've got Hatate, the right wing, don't they? Who's quite pacey. So I don't know. He looked really gassed, and I'd be sticking Sterling in there.
Jamie Brown saying he'd rather you play left back.
He's going to go right through them. He's really.
What do you make of Callum? What do you make of Borna Barisic as a whole? Do you think he just doesn't offer enough going forward anymore? Obviously, the cross balls we got from him and Tavernier in seasons gone by were a real asset. But I think the lack of pace that Borna Barisic has is a real issue now.
It's not going to get any better, I think. His crossing is obviously very good. It always has been. But he seems to lack confidence or something. It's like you have 2 different players a lot of the time, and he looks like he's lacking confidence again now. And I don't know if it's maybe because some of the fans maybe get on his back a wee bit, but just he was really frustrating, I think, at the start of the season, or was it last season? Always passing the ball back. Like he'd run 10 yards, stop, and turn around back. I'm like, what's he doing, man? I'd rather you just lost the ball, mate, and had a go. But so he's my main concern, really. But I'll be surprised if he starts.
Yeah, I think I share the same concerns you do. I think Barisic is so predictable. We already know that if Barisic gets the ball, it's one touch and cross. But if he's not taking one touch and crossed, then it's going back the way to the centre half. And that's just how Borna Barisic plays. But we know that, never mind opposition teams knowing that. Kyle, what did you make of Barisic yesterday? I think it's such a contrast from what you see from Ridvan, just in style of play, just in how much it impacts the game. It looks a lot more nervous. I don't know, what did you make of Barisic? I'm just kind of piling on here, which may be a bit unfair.
Yeah, honestly, I think he's a guy that's tuned out a bit and is aware that he's not going to be here at the end of the season. Which is not fair enough. Obviously, you want everybody to give it 100%. Callum touched on it there. He's a confidence player. When his confidence is high, his decision making, I feel, is good, and his intensity of his play is good. again, Clement mentioned it. That's why he took him off, was because he's not had a lot of football lately. I think he was saving his blushes. Yeah, there's a good reason you're laughing at that there, Callum. But I think he was saving his blushes a wee bit. He doesn't fit into this system or this style that we play, because he doesn't bring the same intensity down that left-hand side. I think comparing them, because naturally you're going to compare left and right. It's very difficult to do so. I'm sure you'll be mentioning this, but I mean, the all-time highest scoring British defender now, I suppose it is quite difficult to compare them. But just in terms of going forward, overlapping, Barisic does what Tav doesn't, and when he gets the ball, he stops and he looks about, and rather than just playing the quick pass in behind to one of our runners now, it's just not there, and then that's when people get frustrated about it. And even yesterday, he came off, he went off at the side of the pitch, he went round, he got the applause off the fans. The fans are always going to applaud you and give you support, but it's annoying me when he's like, holding his hamstring. You're going, you're fine, mate. You're absolutely, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you don't need to make this worse than what it is. But yeah, I totally agree. Even though Dujon Sterling is not left-footed, I thought he did really well out there on that left-hand side. I can't remember, is it Obita, the boy who was playing down that right-hand side yesterday for Hibs?
I think it was. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I think
he's got a decent amount of pace, and Sterling kept up with him. He had his few sort of signature slide challenges in there as well, where he just took the ball, took the man out, nearly took the linesman out a couple of times as well. So yeah, I would actually have no issue. I mean, if it was up to me, I would just clone Dujon Sterling 11 times and just play him and see how that goes.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen in the next week, so we may need to find another solution. But I think Borna Barisic, one of the main concerns I have with him is always his defensive, I was going to say qualities, but lack of defensive qualities, let's say. I felt that actually Hibs' goal yesterday was a really poor one for us to lose, and I felt like it was all our own fault as well. And Paul McGarrigle comes in with exactly the point I was going to make. It felt like it came from Borna Barisic because he had the opportunity to play a quick pass into Diomande, who would have set us going forward, and he just didn't do that. And then in turn, Hibs got the ball back, played it down his side. John Lundstrom was never catching that boy. Suter was turned inside out, and it was just a multitude of errors. But Callum, going into the Old Firm game, where we know it's the small margins and it's the slightest of things that can win you or lose you the game. It feels like we've lost a few silly goals in recent weeks, but it's not something we're really used to seeing, particularly since Philippe Clement came in. Is defensively, are you happy with where we are, or is it a wee bit of a concern?
I'm not too concerned. I think it's Scottish football. Rangers will have 20 shots on goal and we'll score 2 of them, and the opposition will have 1 shot and they'll take it. And it's it's so predictable. Look, I didn't think that Suter had the best of games, and obviously against Scotland when he came on, he looked a wee bit rusty. So is that a concern? No, I don't think so. I think when you're going into an Old Firm game, you're pumped up. You know what to expect, and they should be focused. And the Celtic defence, we've still got a better defence than them, so I'm not too concerned about that now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Kyle, where are you on that? And actually, I'm going to move on because I think you'll be very similar to Callum. So I think just answering that question for you,
because that was smooth.
I was like, I'd actually much rather talk about the referee yesterday and some of the calamities that happened.
Don't make me do this, man.
So yesterday, the first half in particular was absolutely wild from the referee. I think it was David Dickinson. What did you make of that performance? I don't think I've ever seen so many dropped balls. I don't think I've ever seen a referee stop a game when the ball's going out for a throw-in to then stop a game for a head knock and then give the ball back to the other team that was just giving away the throw-in. The penalty, I think, was probably questionable. I don't know if I would count that as a penalty.
I'm shocked by that, by the way. This to come in there. I don't know how people are saying that wasn't a penalty. I don't understand it, because at the game, I didn't think, I was like, maybe it's maybe a bit soft and all that stuff. But I mean, that guy, he's just come flying through the air. He's not looked where he's going. He has his arm up and he connects with Suter's face. How's that not a penalty? I mean, if you're doing that anywhere else on the pitch, if you're going up to win a header, you're getting a booking, a yellow card, and a free kick awarded to it. So I don't know. I don't know how people don't think that was a penalty. I'm sure I might get I might get comments or whatever.
I think I'll be the one getting comments rather than you, to be fair, after that one. But I just wasn't convinced that it should have been a penalty. But refereeing overall yesterday was just a bit strange, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's look, I never really like talking about refs and their performances on the games. Like, not because I think I'm going to get a fine or anything like that, but like, I do agree with you. Some of the decisions were odd yesterday, and the timing of those decisions were odd. Like, I'm sure I heard it on the way back home from on the radio in the car, in terms of the one where Lawrence had the ball in the opposition box, had clear possession of it. A Hibs player went down. It wasn't a head knock because he wasn't holding his head. And then the referee just stopped it and then gave a drop ball back to David Marshall. Yeah, I've never seen so many drop balls in a game in my puff, so much so that I'm assuming that David Dixon must have been in his back garden with a ball just dropping it all weekend, because that's the only reason I can think of why you'd want to do that so many times.
You and Ross stealing each other jokes. That's
100%.
Callum, looking ahead, we're obviously 7 days away from the Old Firm game. It's going to be a huge game. How are you feeling at this stage as the countdown starts? Where's your confidence levels?
I was kind of thinking about this a lot, actually, but I feel really confident. We're playing the best football we have all season. Well, to a degree, compared to last year. We're arguably in our game in hand, 2 points clear. So really, even a draw is a fantastic result. But it's at Ibrox, and we really want to be winning it. So I feel comfortable about it. I genuinely think if we score once, we might score 3 or 4. That's how comfortable. Honestly, put one away, they'll just get hungry for it.
I like the sound of that. I'm not sure I'd share that level of confidence. I'm maybe about a 6.
I'll come back on it for 4.
We'll hold you to that one. As soon as Dessers rolls his 4th in, we'll come back and we'll get you straight away.
I will be phoning you straight away, man.
Kyle, where are you standing on the confidence scale? You tend to be quite low and then build up as the week goes on. Is that where you are at the moment?
Yeah, man. Listen, this week hasn't even finished yet, man. So I'm not even thinking about it. You know what I am? But I've got to mention this. See, before we come on to the Celtic chat and all that, see this. What about the greatest free kick in world football by the Hibs when they dropped 2 of their own players? That for me had to have been one of the funniest things I've ever seen at a football game. I couldn't let that slide. I know there was people in sports shows in America even talking about it, so that just shows you. But in terms of the confidence scale, we have the muscle memory of winning at the moment. I always think it's a good, sign when we were not at our best yesterday. Many players went, guns a-blazing, but that makes sense given that I think virtually all 5 of the substitutes that we had yesterday were players that had been out injured at some point in the past few weeks and were returning from it. There was players that even started that game that had not long been returning from an injury as well. But I'll go back to what I said at the very, very start of the podcast. The mentality in the team at the moment is fantastic. It was non-existent at the start of the season, but just, losing the penalty, not losing the penalty, not scoring the penalty, and then coming back so quickly to score.
Did you watch that penalty, Kyle?
Oh, no. You know full well I did not watch that penalty, Craig. What I actually saw was when I lifted my head up, I just saw Scott Wright just smashing the ball in. I actually thought I'd passed out and I was dreaming because I saw Scott Wright hitting the back of the net. But it's just we've got that mentality at the moment of just winning it. I'm a firm believer that it is muscle memory, and And, you know, as I said, everybody's gunning towards the same thing. So fairly confident at the moment, but ask me that 30 minutes time, I'll give you a different answer.
I think you had to check your watch for 30 minutes time. The dramatic effect. Kyle, just sticking on it, Callum's obviously nailed his colours to the mast and we're winning by at least 4. But
I will say, I think it'll be 2 or 3, and I'm going to go for Scott Wright to score.
There you go. Back into the real world. Is it vital that we just don't lose next week, or is the 3 points an absolute must?
3 points an absolute must for me. I think I never want us to lose a game. I just think if next week, if we go on and win that, if we then go on and perform well and get 3 points in the Dundee game, that is serious momentum with 5 games left to go this season. I think that'd be a 5-point gap. You know, it gives us a bit of leeway. As I said, the other side of the city, they've not been in this position other than once in the last 10 years where they've really had to push. I don't think that they cope well under pressure, particularly. So yeah, for me, it's every time we play Celtic, it's a must-win game. I get where you're coming from, but you will never find me saying that we can afford to lose or draw because you always want to beat them.
Where do you stand on that one, Callum?
That's a tough one. If you had asked me yesterday before the Hibs game, would have said it's a must-win game, you know. But now I watched the Celtic game today, and I just thought very average. You know, I thought Livingston were just really poor. So do I think they're going to drop points again? Absolutely. So maybe it's a case they just don't drop points, you know. But time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely will. And I guess the time between 12 o'clock and 1:45 next Sunday will be the real moment. Kyle, one of the habits that were bad habits I think we got into against Celtic, particularly this season, is losing the first goal. Chris BC comes in and says can't afford to lose the first goal again. How important is that in the mentality of these games? We just seem to keep giving ourselves mountains to climb.
Yeah, I mean, Rangers have been the architects of their own downfall in many a game. I'm sure you could. I don't want to be, open up old wounds and getting PTSD in this podcast, man. But like, it's. I'll go back to it. It's just there's just something a bit different about this team and the way that they are at the minute. I mean, they're a real collective. I mean, it goes without saying, losing the first goal, it's not ideal if it happens, but I still have every confidence under Clement and this Rangers team, regardless of the personnel that's playing. Starting, I think that I'm not saying we've got a wide range of options in the bench, but this is certainly the healthiest the bench has looked in a good number of weeks. It was no. I mean, the manager again banged on about it in every single post-match press conference he did. He talked about the amount of returning players. We have options, and I think that is key. That if it isn't going well, if it isn't going to plan, we now have people that can come off that bench and make real meaningful changes. And we saw it yesterday. If we do lose a goal, I believe in this team to come back and go right up the other end within 3-4 minutes and go and get another one back.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. There'll be plenty of time for the nerves to start going and for the build up to get us all thinking of every possible scenario going. So we've got a podcast on Wednesday. Kyle will be at the game with Ross, and they'll bring in all the coverage from that as well. So that'll be class. But I just wanted to we'll finish off the podcast with some questions to Callum. Callum, first of all, just to get us started, there was one Kyle was talking about earlier. I think you're the only one of the three of us to get to play on the park at Ibrox. You got your chance in the Legends game. How was that whole experience?
Obviously, like stuff of dreams as you're a wee boy, To be honest, I didn't know it was going to happen. So basically, just when I was in the tunnel before all the players went on the pitch, Alec McLeish, we do a lot of charity work together. So I know him pretty well for that. And he just came up and whispered in my ear and goes, there's a strip in there for you. You're coming on for the last 10 minutes. I was absolutely buzzing, mate. So I was meant to go and play the guitar and sing, but you're just pretty much miming with because I've not got the system set up for music, so it was always. So I wasn't really that excited about that. When they told me, I was like, I'm not even interested in singing. I'm like, just get me that strip on. So the next thing, I'm sitting there, and Jermaine Defoe's sitting next to me at the bench and stuff, and my manager just couldn't stop laughing because I'm just sitting there like so out of place, Anyway, and then it turns out it's like, right, go and get warmed up. So I went and got warmed up, and then everybody started cheering, and that alone was just amazing because I thought, well, people dream of these things, you guys have, play football yourselves, and just to be the person that gets these opportunities, I'm massively grateful to all of them for giving me that opportunity. And I've still got a bit of grass, and I've not washed the football strip either, although my mum came around and stuck the socks in the washing machine, so I was absolutely fuming with that. But I know it was an incredible experience, and if they want me back this year, you know where I am. I did say to Big Yap Stammer, because when I came on the pitch, he was marking me, and he was about 3 times the size of me, right? And I turned into whisper, I was like, mate, I'm just a singer, man. Is there any chance you just let me go past you? Like, no chance.
I know. And I've got to interject here and say kudos to you, because you were one of the few ones on that pitch wearing a proper pair of football boots and Copa Mundials.
Was I absolutely brilliant, mate? The Copas get a bit of stick, don't they? Saying like they don't look that great, but they're fantastic.
Best football boots going.
No, what an experience, and
very jealous. Very jealous. Lewis, a couple more questions coming from people watching at the moment. So Lewis, too cool for school, says, who's the best Rangers player you've seen in the flesh?
Oh, well, McCoist is my hero, but the best Rangers player, that's too hard to answer. I tell you one thing that I think is amazing. Just through music, obviously I've been incredibly lucky with my music career, but just being friends with a couple of the players like Steve Davis, Peter Lovencrans especially, like these guys were my heroes, growing up, and to go for a pint with them and stuff and call them close friends is a beautiful thing. So Lovencrans, I'm going to get to him. The fast.
Aye, that's fair. He's a hero for that Scottish Cup final goal alone. So absolutely. Jamie Brown, I was going to call him JB, but I realise that's not what his name actually says on the thing. So JB's one of our podcasters. He says that you organised a taxi for him and his mates from Braga to Porto, and he said it was quite an eventful one. I'm not sure if you can tell that story.
I can't even remember much, to be honest with you. I do remember sitting in the back of the taxi and singing songs and all that on the way down. But no, it was a great away trip. That Braga, a great wee family club as well. I've got a great memory of an old woman outside their window, and she was waving to me like this as we're walking down to the stadium. And then she's calling me over. I don't know if she was wanting to go into her house, but in the street and stuff. And I just thought it's experiences like that, just having a great time at away games, it just makes me keep going back,
Yeah, what's been your favourite away trip you've been on?
Seville, because the weather was incredible as well. Obviously, after the game, it was pretty brutal, the long walk back to the hotel. And obviously the water situation was brutal as well. I was like picking up wee bottles of water anywhere, just like. Anyway, no, that was brilliant. I was in what do you call it? Benfica's place the other week there.
The Stadium of Light, Estadio de Luz.
Lisbon.
Oh, look at you, Craig.
I know, look at me pulling out names.
I was in Lisbon, and it pushed down from the Thursday to the Sunday. We were there.
Nice.
That was a bit disturbing, but I still had a great time,
Yeah, absolutely. So what have you got coming up next few months, Callum? Got loads of exciting stuff?
Aye, man. We've got a few gigs down south with Richard Ashcroft. We're doing 2 nights in the Usher Hall in Edinburgh we've just put on the second night, so I think there's a few tickets left for that. And then we'll probably tour at the end of the year. We're before the headliner at Belladrum this year on the Saturday night, so that should be unbelievable. And I'm in the studio with Dougie for Travis, writing some tunes in a few weeks. He's also a Rangers fan, I believe. So it's all happening, mate, to be honest. Even when I talk about these things, it's I still need to pinch myself, not really thinking it's me, do you know what I mean? But aye, it's incredible. Loving life.
How does it feel to kind of be, I guess, in that moment or in that space where you're just growing and growing and growing, your popularity is just getting bigger and bigger? Is it just a case of taking it each day, week, month as it comes? And
one game at a time?
One game at a time. No, to be honest with you, right, so I'm 34 now. I've been writing songs since I was 15, right, so a good while. And it's been really hard, like, you know, playing in pubs to start with. Then I had to move to London, washing dishes in kitchens, just try to get money to get demos and then hand them out. And I used to sneak into a lot of festivals, like Tea in the Park and stuff, and put on a high-vis jacket and pretend I was working there to try and get my music heard and stuff. Actually, there's still a clip on YouTube, like me jumping on stage with R.E.M. But these are like the mad things that I have to do, you know, just to try and get my music heard. But for the first time, like the last sort of 2 years, no having to worry about selling out gigs and things like that. It's such a stress relief. And, you know, if this is as good as it gets for me, which I don't believe it's going to be, it's just going to keep going. You know, I take it, you know, and I'm be grateful for what I've got, because, you know, you've got to imagine how many people dream of being footballers, of being singers. You know, you're in a sea of talent, and you need to really work hard. So I'm lucky.
No, it's great to see, and it's great to see a fellow Rangers fan doing really well and continuing to grow as well. So, but yeah,
that's coming out as a Rangers fan. Coming out, I love it. It's mental, though, isn't it? It really is. It was quite something. But it's funny because in England, like, nobody cares what team you support. You know, it's like everybody's got to support somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm surprised people were surprised. It's like, you know what I mean? Why would you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. Well, Callum, thanks again for coming on the podcast. Hopefully we can get you on again soon when you're back from touring and all your busyness on the music side of things. But thank you very much for coming on. Thank you, Kyle.
I'm a big fan.
Excellent. Now keep commenting when you're watching, and we'll make sure that we get you on again soon. Kyle, thanks very much for joining us as always as well. Thank you very much to everyone for watching and listening tonight, and for all your questions and comments as we're going through this. If you enjoyed the podcast, please remember to subscribe. It means you don't miss any content from the TII team, especially ahead of this big Old Firm build-up week. And do make sure you drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed the content as well. As Hugo Bear says there, all the best to Callum in the coming weeks and months. Wishing him every success. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching and listening. And until next time, if I can find the right button, we'll say goodbye.